Welcome, everyone, to Elevate with V. So excited to be here today. So, this podcast was inspired by my own journey and as a way to express gratitude to those beautiful people that have helped me along the way. I would love to share who they are and their gifts with all of you. So, I can't wait to introduce my guest today, Crissabelle, also known as EmpathicHealer369. Her spiritual journey started around May of 2018. And she surrendered and tapped into her intuition. And she said she was fighting it for a long time. So that is how Empathic Healer 369 came about. She is a highly intuitive psychic medium that reads energy and is a Holy Fire Master Reiki practitioner, integrated energy therapy, I would say practitioner, and Akashic record practitioner. All kinds of practitioner. So welcome, Crissabelle. So excited to have you here.
I know. I love your energy. Thank you for
Oh.
having me. I'm so grateful and blessed for this opportunity.
Oh my gosh. So I do want to share really quickly. So Crissabelle and I actually connected through a mutual connection, Sam, and we connected on her like Instagram live. There were a couple of us that connected. It was you, me, Renee, and a few other people. And, of course, Sam was like, okay, go follow her. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to go follow her. And then I basically came over to your channel and I just like love your big, bold, tell it like it is, powerful, sassy, and so incredibly gifted. And I was just like, I remember coming into your live, I was like, oh my God, she's like amazing. She's so gifted. So I just love that you always are so authentic and you totally stand in your power and you don't sugarcoat. You're like, hey, this is what's up. I'm going to let you know how it is. And so I'm super grateful to be connected to you, and welcome again, Crissabelle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And, the first time I connected with you, with your energy, it's like amazing. My soul sister, my Gemini sister. So it's like, yeah,
Yes.
definitely revive.
I love that. Okay, so we are going to jump in, guys. So, Crissabelle, give me and the audience an idea of like when you kind of either you were started to be aware of some of your gifts or when you stepped into your healing journey. I'll kind of let you pick what you want to start with.
Like ever since I was little, I've always been, very intuitive, but, as you get raised into a certain culture, religion, sometimes in your family, certain things are not discussed, and, when I was little, I was always the sensitive one, extremely sensitive. I would cry for any little thing. And that was really mostly frowned upon, especially in my culture and in my upbringing. They would even call me, like, my nickname in Spanish would be like ñaña, would mean like, oh, you're such a baby. They would call me like ñaña, ñoña, and it's like, that would hurt my feelings, but I couldn't help who I was. I was extremely sensitive. Um, Even in school, like, I would always be the outcast. I never really wanted to be part of a clique. I was always usually by myself. I always felt like I didn't belong here, Like, even with my own family, I even thought, like, am I adopted? Like, I just felt like I just didn't belong, but I never understood why. As years passed, um, I, had to suppress, because I would see things, I would hear things, and you would bring that up to, your parent, your mom, and it's like, oh no, you're making things up, or, it's just like, you would get shut down immediately. So I would always have to, like, kind of repress it, and just not go by it.
So
But
so tell me a little bit about like what were you seeing and how old were you when you started to like see or sense things that were like, different for you?
I would like see, like, sometimes I would see like dark entities, and I was little, I would be scared, like at like at night, my mom would be like, you need to stop seeing scary movies and this and this and that. And I was like, it just happens. Like, sometimes you're sleeping, I would see things, I would feel like certain things touching me. And sometimes I couldn't sleep at night because, you're terrified. You don't really know like what's going on. So
Absolutely.
it would
Yeah.
be it would be very overwhelming for me because I didn't understand. I didn't know, like, why am I seeing this, these things? And then, your parents don't really want to, talk about those things. I mean, in our culture, it is like open, but then again, it's not. It depends, what you're talking about. Like I've always been drawn since I was little, watching like sci-fi movies. I love aliens. My favorite movie was like E.T., still one of my favorite movies. I would always watch like the sci-fi channel. I would always be like people that have powers. That was usually my thing. Like I was always drawn to that, and we were little, going to the Dominican Republic. We have like a healer that she was blind, but she can read your energy. I was always been exposed to that since I was little, like that was, accepted in our culture because we do have, people that are healers that are, shaman that use like all herbs and everything like to heal you, everything, from the countryside. So I was, technically exposed to that. My mom does a lot of remedies, you know, brought down from my ancestors and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. So you said Dominican Republic, right, Crissabelle?
Yeah, that's where my parents are from. They're from Dominican
Wow.
Republic, then they immigrated, here. And then we, my brother and I and my sister, we were all, raised over here. But I mean, we would always go in the summertime, stay the whole summer in Dominican Republic, get to know, how our parents grew up and, just get to know that part, which I enjoyed it because I have beautiful memories, of my grandparents, of my, my cousins and everything of what we used to do. It was a good experience.
I love that. So this is really interesting that you said that, you would try to share with your parents, but you're also sharing that your mom was kind of into, let's call it plant medicine, herb medicine or whatever, but yet she was not very sort of, was it not about understanding or was it about like, oh no no, that's just too taboo, let's not even touch that? What was really, why would she not embrace when you're saying, oh mom, I'm afraid I'm seeing something, given kind of how she grew up?
Because it was mostly like there's certain things, I guess the way that she was brought up, you don't discuss certain things. It's like whatever, your parents says goes and that's it. You're not gonna argue, you're not gonna, so it's kind of like you have to respect that, you have to respect, the way that they were. I mean, I understand that they were brought up in a different time, in a different generation, and being raised in the States versus being raised, in a different country, totally different beliefs and everything else. So I mean, my mom would be open to it, like we'll go and get our cards read, stuff like that. But it's like she's into it, but then she's not. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, which one is it?
Right. She's sort of like, okay, this I can hang with, this I can't. So it's sort of like she had her own sort of criteria and boundary. I can just imagine, and I'll be honest, I think a lot of us who are empaths, the way that we grew up, there was so much of like not fitting in, like just like nobody really gets me, but you have to do just enough to fit in. So it's almost like I kind of joke, I'm like, I always had to have like one foot in reality and be like, okay, what do I need to do or be just enough so I kind of fit in somewhat, even though I really don't fit in. And then you can't really share or express these other things because nobody really gets it. Or they're like, we don't want to talk about this. Like it's not okay to talk about it, you know?
Yeah,
So
exactly. It was that vibe. Certain things were not just discussed. It was like you were told what to do. This is what it is. It's like, so we kind of like grew up. Like communication wasn't really flourished. It was very limited when it
yeah.
comes to communication, especially with your emotions. That wasn't. And like with my children, obviously, I'm working on that. I don't want to kind of, be how I was raised. I'm basically, changing it up. Yes, I've done mistakes in the past, obviously being, a young mother, not knowing who I am or, what I was about. But obviously that was a person that I'm no longer, I'm a obviously different person. We grow each day, every day we change. Every day we change our perspective, our mindset.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So here we have, like you said, it's something that you weren't able to share, people didn't understand, so you're pretty much kind of like in your own little bubble, kind of hanging out, so when did you start to feel a little bit more comfortable? Was it, kind of a little bit when you were older? Like, share with us what that experience is where you're like, okay, I feel like I am a little bit more comfortable now, I can kind of share, and I'm finding people who are being able to resonate with me, or
Yeah, it really, I've kind of blossomed mostly towards, like, how we say, late in the game, like, you know, probably like, in my late 30s into like my 40s. That's when I really started, like, really, getting that aha moment. Like, I was in a relationship that was extremely toxic, extremely codependent. Um, at that time, I didn't understand, you know, why I continue being in this relationship that was no longer serving. But I understand now that I was living in a limited, mindset. I was living in fear. So when you're living in fear, it's you're always like, you're scared, mentally. I was really like in a low state of mind. So um that really, really changed. It's like when you have those tower moments, like, universe is trying to show you, like, oh, you're not supposed to be in this relationship. This relationship already did what it had to do for you. But when you try to force certain relationships to continue to work, and then you continuously get tower moments, there was so many red flags, so many signs that I ignored because I was afraid. I was living in fear, like, oh my God, if I end this relationship, and then of course it makes it harder because there's children involved. So, I was in that mindset, like, okay, this is who I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. And then it's like, I had that talk with myself, like, okay, I'm not happy. I'm not happy in this relationship. Mentally, I was a mess. Emotionally, someone that was like, a narcissist, wanted to control what I do. It was really like a wake up call. I understand that, that happened to me. I had to go through that in order for me to become Empathic Healer 369. I had to go through all that, catastrophic pain that I went through. It was difficult, but I made it through, like, mentally, uh emotionally. It was really not a good place in that time. I was really in a dark place, really extremely in a dark place.
yes, I totally hear you from what you're sharing. I mean, I think for all of us that have gone through what we will call the dark night of the soul, and it's basically a series of tower moments. And, for people who are listening in, first of all, go check out the other episodes because we talk a lot about tower moments in these healing journeys. But really, it's just saying that it's going to be different experiences in your life that really kind of push you over the edge, where it's just like you've gotten enough nudges and you're not listening. And the universe is like, really sorry, but I got to just put you all the way down now because I was trying to give you the flags and you continue to ignore them or rationalize them or use your head instead of your heart. And here we go. And I know that was true for me as well. And exactly what you're sharing is like you had your own series of tower moments, which, I mean, if you think about it, it basically brings you down to like, ground zero. And it's like, okay, now time to rebuild, but do it differently now that you're starting to understand the lessons and being able to reflect on the lessons. And this is by no means an easy journey. Crissabelle, I know you would agree, like it takes time. Like it takes time to heal all these layers that, we've lived with like most of our lives, our adult lives. And then suddenly you're like, whoa, okay, I got to do things differently because this is not working.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I definitely had that time moment. And it was just like, okay, what is it that I need to do? And, once I ended, the relationship, because I wanted to manifest ending that relationship, not in a tragic way. I wanted to end it in a peaceful way. And, that's what I manifested, for it to transpire. And after, I ended that relationship, it took a lot of courage, a lot of bravery, you know, to do it. Um, the universe, once you take that leap, the universe has you, and everything. Obviously, it hasn't been, an easy journey. There's been many obstacles, challenges, till this day, but I'm grateful that all the obstacles and challenges that have come my way makes me see certain things in a different perspective, you know, and that's a good thing because I can also help my clients that go through similar scenarios. I can kind of guide them and say, well, certain things happen for this reason. You weren't paying attention to the red flags, or within yourself intuitively, I know I wasn't going to be in this relationship longer than, yeah, it took 10 years. The last 5 years really got codependency and extremely toxic, but I have to understand I also allowed those things to happen. I can't be in a victim mindset, like, okay, this happened to me. Yeah, because I allowed those things to happen. I wasn't enforcing my boundaries at that time. I had like lack of self-love, lack of who I was. I didn't know who I was. I lost myself in that relationship, people pleasing, trying to please, and it was basically like a karmic relationship, a trauma bond. I was with that person due to trauma bonding. It wasn't because, yes, I did love that person, but at the end of the day, there was so much damage done that, the love wasn't there anymore. Like, I still have love for that person, obviously, send them blessings, everything else. But I'm also grateful that I did experience all this in order to become who I am today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing, Crissabelle. That's such a powerful story. And I know that so many listeners are going to be able to relate. I mean, it's kind of almost, if you think about it, kind of a universal story of, these different relationships and what we're drawing in towards us, but not even knowing that we're doing that, right? And then as you keep going through the journey and you have the red flags, your own insecurities, your own things are what's keeping you there. Of course, you're not going to be able to see that until you've done the tower moment, you've done some work. So I wanted to actually take you back a little bit when you decided finally, which I'm just blown away that you even had the insight to be like, well, I want to end this peacefully, because I don't know that anybody would even think to do that when they're going through something, because there's just so much anger and hurt and pain, and you feel like a victim, and how did this happen to me, and how could they do this, like all of those things. So what I wanted to find out from you is, like, once you were able to get out of the relationship successfully on kind of your terms a little bit, what were the things that you did to start to heal yourself so that you could be like, okay, what do I need to do now to kind of like fill this empty cup and to kind of put positive things in me, or to work through the hurt and pain? What were some of the things that you decided to do or were drawn to do?
That's when I was like, I also realized that I was living in that time that I wanted to control everything. And reality is we do not have control of many things, but I always wanted to control the situation. And that's one thing that I had to face with myself. Like, okay, you can't always control every outcome. You have to just go with the flow and let everything unfold naturally. And this is what I tell certain clients that I see, that they want to control, certain scenarios, certain relationships to go this way, and it's not going to work. It's always going to fail when you're trying to control every single move. I had to kind of face that and say, okay, I was controlling. I was kind of obsessed with, okay, I want this to work, when the universe was saying, no, this person already did their purpose. They already did what they had to show you. Now you need to move on and continue elevating.
Yes, I
you know
love.
I definitely, that's when I started doing, my Reiki, the Holy Fire. I did level 1 and 2. Then I took a break, took a year to obviously, practice and do what I had to do. Then I did like my mastery like over a year ago. And then, from there, and basically it's basically I lost who I was. I didn't know who I was. I lost myself in this relationship. So I had to kind of discover, like, who are you, Crissabelle? What are you all about? What I had to basically enforce boundaries, not only with relationships, but even with family members, even with, with my children, something that's hard for me to do because I didn't have any boundaries. And then when you don't have any boundaries, or when you don't enforce those boundaries, you're basically a doormat. People step over you because you allow that to happen. Now I don't let that, happen. And if it does happen, yeah, there's times it is difficult to set boundaries, with your family members, with your mom, with your children, and I'm, embracing that. I'm not afraid anymore to do that. Before I wasn't, my throat chakra wasn't activated. I would stay quiet all the time. I wouldn't express myself how I feel. Now I don't do that anymore. I express myself to everyone.
Yes, you do. And I love that about you. Now it's like, you're like, yes, I found my voice. I know I'm in my power. I know who I am. I've done my work. I've healed so many things. And now, it's sort of how we say, it's like, everything is so purposeful, right? When we're able to have that higher perspective, is like, we've gone through some of the most challenging journeys, and then we come out of it and like, wow, that mess was basically my gift, right? All of that mess that happened was basically what took
Exactly.
me to my gifts. And you're like, okay, I guess I can look back and be like, oh, now I can have gratitude for these people that have played that part. But I wanted to ask you, when you started to kind of invest in yourself and say, okay, I need to work on myself, I'm going to do Reiki, I'm going to do these other things, was how was like your family and stuff? Were you able to share anything while you were going through this sort of very challenging time? Or were you just kind of doing your own thing and just saying, hey, I feel called to do X, Y, and Z. I'm just going to fill my cup and just keep moving forward. And, whether my family supports me or not, I just have to do this for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a lot of support from my children. I love them to death. They're, I'm also showing them, because obviously they were not exposed to that, especially my older children. But all my children, I mean, we're all intuitive. We're all of us. We are born intuitive. Is all about, do you want to continue repressing it, or do you just want to, go with your intuition and be guided? So I always tell my kids, like, always go by your intuition, go with your heart. Some of the answers you already know there are within yourself. You just have to, go with it. Sometimes we have that battle with that, with our ego, with our logic. And certain things don't make sense. And I always tell them, sometimes certain things don't need to make sense. But my children, they definitely support me, and I love them for that. When it comes to like my mom and the rest of my family, they're not aware right now at this moment, because as you know, I have my family is immensely big on my mom's side. She has like 20 siblings, and my mom is one of the youngest. So we come from, coming from the Caribbean, um, Catholic upbringing. Obviously I did my first communion, but after that, my parents, there was a lot of controversial at that time in the Catholic Church. So, once they found out like the priest was doing, shady stuff, they're like, okay, we're not gonna go to church anymore. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe in a higher power in God. Obviously, I still have my beliefs. Just because I don't go to church, I mean, that doesn't, So part of my family, like my mom's sisters, they're extremely Catholic. They're very, religious. So I already know, once that gets discovered, it's gonna be a lot of like controversial, but this is who I am. This is, I can't hide. I can no longer hide who I am. They're gonna accept me whether or not. If they don't want to accept me, that's fine. I mean, I understand. Everyone has, program beliefs and everything. And I know one of my aunts, like, you know, you always have that family member that's, always instigating. But it is what it is. I mean, I'm not gonna stop what I'm doing just because they were raised a certain way. I mean, I respect that. I respect their release, and that's the way it should be. But I already know, I'm gonna have like negative feedback, but it's nothing I can do. I'm still gonna hold my ground and continue to do what I need to do, what I'm here to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you're saying that, Crissabelle, because, for me, this podcast was also like coming out, right? I've been doing my work for like the past 2 years, kind of in my little cubby, just kind of doing my stuff. And of course, I had the same thing. I was like, holy smokes, I'm going to come out and people be like, what is she talking about? What has she gone through these past 2 years? And, you know, part of the journey is basically standing back in your power and coming to a place. Of course, it's a journey of having to release a lot of relationships and sometimes family as well for me. And it was incredibly painful. And it's always going to be a little bit of a wound. But I also had to choose myself and say, I need to do this for myself. It's okay to be selfish when you're doing your healing journey because you're trying to be the best version of yourself and you're putting back the pieces the way that you would like them to be versus how, you know, let's just say we were constructed in terms of society and rules and how you should be and how you shouldn't be. And this is acceptable.
Exactly.
And that's not acceptable. And now it's like, you know what? I'm going to do this on my terms. I'm going to do what I need to do, and you're doing the same thing. So I'm just saying, listen, honey, your family could find this podcast and be listening in the Dominican Republic. Because I'm telling you, I was surprised when I was looking at some of the stats. Like, this podcast has been listening to people all over the place. I'm like, what? Someone's listening to me in Poland? Someone's listening to me in Hungary? Someone's
That's
in Peru?
amazing. But that's amazing though. That's the love, you know, like global, you know, anyone obviously in the world have some type of connection, like, oh yeah, I've been through this, or, you know, and they definitely connect. I mean, you're
Yeah.
in a, you know, especially the topics that you bring up, definitely.
Yes. And so I think for you too, it's just like, you know, you just have to be focused on like standing in your authentic power, which I know you do. And it's like, hey, let the chips fall where they may. I mean, this is going to come out. People are going to listen. And, you know, for example, I knew that at some point, you know, some family members are going to hear this. I'm like, okay, well, they're going to hear it. And it's up to them whether they choose to listen, they don't listen, whether they want to connect with me, they don't want to connect with me. It's like, I just know that when I'm doing this, I feel so aligned in my soul that this feels like the right thing to do. And so I'm just following that and trusting the universe, because for me, that was a big thing during my journey is my tower moments happened kind of how you said, right? You get the red flags, not listening. It's like keep going to my head to rationalize and be like, oh, no,
Exactly.
everything's fine. No, they're good people. They're this. And then the universe is like, honey, we've been giving you lots of messages and we've given them to you over and over again. If you look back at your life, you're repeating those patterns. And now I'm sorry, we got to do this. It's time.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand. I mean, not everyone's gonna understand you. Not everyone is gonna resonate with your energy, and I'm fine with that. I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean, there's gonna be people that vibe with you. There's gonna be certain people that are not. I still gotta continue doing what I'm here to do and continue moving forward.
100%. And, you know, and the thing that I love about you too is like, you know, anytime someone comes to your live or they're booking a reading, like, you know, it's so beautiful when you're able to connect with people because they understand their journey. They're like, listen, I've been in your shoes. I've learned and now I can assist. And, you know, I think for me, you are definitely one of those people like you totally stand in your truth. And you're like, I'm just going to tell you like it is. No sugarcoating. This is what it is. And I think that that's amazing. So I'm going to take you back just a second because, you know, we talked about in your bio and you just mentioned again, I know that people are familiar with Reiki, but I would love to be able to share with people what is a Holy Fire Master Reiki practitioner. So what is that? Please share with us.
So basically, you know, Reiki is another healing modality. There's different types of Reiki. There's the Isui one. I mean, I did level 1 on that. I haven't done level 2 or 3, but I did do the Holy Fire because when I was discovering like who I was, you know, I didn't know what gifts I mean, I did know certain gifts that I have. I still have other gifts that I haven't tapped into, that obviously, you know, we're all going to be elevating at some point. um I went to get a reading from the psychic medium, and everybody was like, everyone that I would come across, because I would go to this metaphysical store to get like my crystals, you know, and my incense, everything that I needed, and she would tell me like, um she actually run into me and then she was like, you know, you're supposed to be doing like energy work. And I'm like, I have no clue. I'm like, what do you mean energy work, you know? I was like, I knew obviously I would feel things, but you know, when I got into it, she was like, yeah, you're supposed to be doing like, Reiki, but she's like, you're bright, your light is so bright. You don't do the regular Isu. You need to start with Holy Fire. So then I looked into it, and the metaphysical store that I go to, they actually, offer, classes and stuff like that. And it so happened that they were offering it. So I'm like, oh, let me look into it, see what it is. It's similar to Isui, but it has a different um when you're scanning someone's like body before you do like the energy work, the Reiki, you use a pendulum. You can use a pendulum, or you can use this selenite stick. This is what I usually use, the selenite. And you have to basically like scan the body. It's a little bit stronger than the regular Isui Reiki. I mean, it all is basically kind of the same thing. It's just a different approach of how you're gonna do the energy healing, and it's much stronger. And she stated, you need to do the Holy Fire because that's what your energy is. Your light is so bright. You need to start off with this. I'm like, okay, so I took. She's one of the top psychics, so I went with her. When I did my palm reading, the gentleman said the same thing. They're like, your energy is so strong. You're supposed to be doing energy work. And then I discovered like um, you have like healers have like a mark on your left. There's like a little mark right here on like where your pinky is, and there's like little lines right under your pinky. There's like little lines if you really look. Well, I didn't know I had that. He pointed that out. He goes, "You see that? That's you're destined. This is what you're supposed to do. Like do energy work." And then I did more research, and I actually have it on both hands. So when I do energy work, my hands get really hot. Like it feels like if you have like a heating pad. So
Wow.
and it's different when you're scanning someone's body. Like you really need to pay attention intuitively. What are you feeling? Sometimes I'm guided, like when I'm scanning someone's body, and I'm either magnetized to go to that area, or I get tingling. That means that area needs work. That's why I kind of know. And I also get visions. I see certain things. Um, like I was doing energy work on someone, and right in their like lower stomach, like uterus area, I felt like something was going on, like because I was more gravitated to that area. So then I said, I don't know if you're aware, but it looks like you're either starting like a yeast infection or something's going on. And they're like, oh my God, yes, it just started yesterday. So, I cleared that up, stuff like that. But she was like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just know. Like sometimes you just know intuitively. It was showing me those images of like her uterus. Like there was like a lot of inflammation. So then I had another client. I think they were starting a UTI. So stuff like that is, I pick up things. I also feel people's like physical pain. Obviously their anxiety. I can hear certain things that they say in their mind. It gets pretty intense.
It's so funny that you said that. I mean, I'm just like I've popped into your lives, and you will like right off the bat, she's like, does someone have a headache in here? Because I'm just getting a headache. Okay. Does someone have this? Because I'm feeling it. And I crack up because it's like, oh my God, you just like pick up all the energy that's coming in. I mean, I'll kind of come back to what you were sharing. I mean, that's really amazing what you shared about this type of Reiki. And it seems like such a beautiful thing because it's almost like you kind of customize the modality because you have other gifts. Like you've got the Reiki, but then you're also like a psychic medium. So it's almost like a medical, intuitive, psychic medium. Like it's just a whole other thing, which I'm so like fascinated. And I think it's so beautiful because that also says that, just because you learn a modality, the whole point of it when you're a healer is being able to put the pieces together and say, okay, I'm kind of creating my own thing. And this is kind of how it works. And that's what it sounds like you're doing, which I absolutely love. But I was going to also ask you, with being so sensitive to everything, do you have to do certain kind of protection around yourself? Do you do some of these things, not just in sessions, but like, I guess when you're just out in the world, if you're picking up people's energy, do you do some practices to kind of?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
definitely, I always, want to go live more often, but I have to make sure that my energy is right. And if my energy is not right, if I'm in a low vibe, you know, if I'm going through certain things, um, you know, I'm not ready. I have to ground myself. I always have to wear, you know, my crystals, my selenite. I always have to take salt baths all the time, purification baths, like, you know, my Florida water, you know, a must, you know, my sage, you know, my Palo Santo, you know, there's many things that I have to do. I mean, obviously I do my candle work as well for protection. I mean, I use a lot of herbs as well. You know, I do some oils as well. I mean, I dive into a little, you know, a little bit of everything. But yeah, especially when I go live, like I wanted to go live like a few days ago, but unfortunately I wasn't able to because I wasn't feeling, you know, feeling that great, you know, physically. And, you know, I've been in like a lot of pain. So I'm like, I'm just gonna wait, you know, spirit is like, you know, don't go now, go when you feel like you're ready to go. So I'm shooting for tomorrow to do my Sagittarius collective, but you know, like, and this is the thing, like a lot of people are like, oh, when are you gonna go live? And it's like, look, I don't like to say I'm gonna go live this day and then something happens, something comes up, you know, because that usually happens in my scenario, you know. But you know, in the near future, you know, I want it to be more structured, you know. But in the meantime, it's just working with, you know, with the routine, with the schedule. But yeah, definitely, I constantly have to clear my energy constantly all the time. Um, Definitely taking those salt baths is a must, especially once I do a live or once I finish all my readings, my private readings or energy sessions. Yeah, definitely, I have to do that. I
Yeah,
have
I
to.
could
Oh,
I was going to say with, you know, what you're describing in terms of how sensitive you are to energies, I can't imagine that you'd be able to, you know, just jump from one to the other. Like you have to take time to take care of yourself and your surroundings and your energy before you jump in. And I love that what you're saying is, you know, you're always honoring your own healing and your journey and like what your capacity is. So you're like, hey, this is what works for me. I'm just going to let you know when I'm going to do something, and I'm not going to predetermine because I don't know, you know, because a lot of people have like the fixed things, and that's great. And, you know, maybe eventually you'll get there. But I think it's so important for each of us to just always honor like how we're feeling and to be like, okay, I'm not feeling 100%. So I just need to honor myself and just people will understand. They have to understand because you have to take care of yourself. How are you going to give when you're not feeling, you know, full yourself? Right. So I love,
exactly.
yeah.
Gets
So
challenging and especially when I go live, I really have to prepare myself because when I go live, it's like I really feel like a lot of energies, you know. You know, some people have like they're going through a lot of challenging times, and I can feel that. You know, I feel like the sadness, I feel like the anxiety, you know, like whatever pain they have, you know, shoulder pain, you know, head pain, you know, headache is boom right away. Some people I think has stomach pain. I feel that it's like leg pain. It's like, oh, so it's like, you know, when I go live, it's like, oh, you're already messing with me. It's like, you know, but I can't help it. Is who I am, you know. I can't just like stop it, you know. It's just
yes.
there, you know.
Yes. And the thing too, which is interesting, and especially when you're doing lives, like you don't know who's going to come in. So it's not like you can even prepare beyond a certain extent. And like people
Exactly.
come in and you immediately feel something. And it's, I'm sure, I can't imagine like having to experience all of that in your body. I mean, I think I feel stuff too, but nowhere close to the degree that you're describing. But, you know, I think that's definitely something that, you know, you do really well in terms of, even I remember in your lives, like you'll start to sage or do Palo Santo. You're like, okay, guys, I need a second. I need to like cleanse the energy. I need to do whatever. So you definitely like stop and do what you need to do to kind of bring the energy how it needs to be in your space, which I think is wonderful. So
Yeah, and it was challenging, like recognizing what my energy is and what someone else's energy. That took, you know, that didn't happen overnight. I had to really pay attention because if I'm calm and everything, and then I think I had went to a botanica because I had to get some candles and certain things that I needed. And as soon as I went in there, you know, I'm fine. I'm, you know, grounded, relaxed. I went in there. There were certain people in there. Some of the anxiety was like it was bad. Like my whole body was shivering. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta get out of here. Like it just caught me off guard, you know. And it's like, even though I was grounded and everything, whatever that person was going through, like really affected me. So that's also been like a challenge for me, like being an empath, like getting to know like what energy is mine, what is not mine, you know, what thoughts are mine. Like why all of a sudden I'm hanging out with my friend and I feel like extremely sad. And as I know, it's not my energy, it's their energy, you know? So that took time for me to distinguish like, okay, which one is my energy? This is not my energy. So that's when I know the difference now. Before it was hard for me to understand, okay, is this really me? Why am I feeling like this? But you know, I'm extremely sensitive. You know, I have sensitive skin. My stomach is sensitive, so I'm sensitive all around. So that really took a lot to master. You know, I'm still obviously, you know, learning. I'm still, you know, going through it.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, it's, it's almost sort of like, trial by fire. You kind of have to like every situation is different. And then you're like, okay, was that mine? Was it them? And it's, you're just building that muscle, right? To be able to distinguish. And I think, especially for empaths, and I know that I fall in that category, is, when I was not aware of any of these things, I just assumed everybody felt the same way, right? Like I would, you know, even just with friends, or I would walk into a space and I could just feel that something was off. And it was interesting. And I don't know if this is your experience, but there was always something in me that if I would walk into a space and I like connect with people and their energies, I could already tell that, oh my God, something has happened. They're feeling really sad. And my thing would then be like, how do I elevate them? What can I add into the space to like, number one, make sure that they're heard, but then it's like, what can we do to kind of like pick it up? And, I don't know that that's always a good thing, but that's just kind of what I was doing, and it took me only during my journey to really start to understand that, we're so sensitive to people's energies and we feel the pain. And it's almost like you just want to take it away somehow. You want to fix it. That's what we do. Servicitis is like
Yeah,
trying to fix things. And, not the best thing to do, but I didn't know that at that time, but that's how I would operate. And, in the process, I realized how incredibly draining it is because I was constantly
yeah.
giving my energy out to uplift or listen or hold or, just take care of people. And in the process, I was always depleting myself, and also realizing that, when you're in that energy, sometimes you forget that you've also got to like nurture yourself. So I was like drained a lot and I wouldn't understand why. And also realizing that it was not always reciprocated, right? Because you're just so busy giving that the people are just like, oh, hey, thank you. I feel so much better. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And then I'm like, oh, but I feel really kind of drained and tired
Yeah,
now. What do
energy
I?
vampires, how we call them. Oh my God, yes. I stay away from, I already know which, you know, certain people are gonna bring that type of energy. So I usually keep my distance, you
But
know.
that's what we learned, didn't we? Boundaries,
Yeah,
boundaries. Oh my gosh. That was such a big lesson of boundaries and being able to just be like, okay, this is not a good energy. This is not a good place for me to be. And then to be able to make that choice without feeling guilty, right? Because I think we would also operate out of like, oh, but
exactly.
I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good this if I don't like listen, if I don't help. And, whatever we told ourselves, right? So, but now that you look back at it, you're like, oh man, I totally understand what that was about. And you were sharing about this before, our own boundaries, our own things that we've created in our mind about how things should be and how we should do. And it's like, once everything falls apart, and then you're like, okay, let me like look back at some of those things and be like, I'm not going to do it that way anymore. I'm going to do it a different way now that I know and I understand better and how I can stand in my power, how I can create boundaries, how I can manage my own energy. And it's kind of exactly what you're sharing as well. It's like your journey has led you on all of these things, and also realizing that it's a continuous journey, right? It's like, this is what we're here to do. We're just here to learn and keep growing and building on our inner strength and tools and wisdom and guidance, and then able to share that with others that we get to work with or be with, whether it's relationships or your clients. So, it does all kind of come together, but there is a process to get there.
No, definitely. There is a, I mean, I'm still healing. I mean, we're still gonna be healing different areas that we need. Like healing is just like, okay, I healed for 2 years, I'm done. No. There's many layers that we still have to heal. I mean, I'm still healing from, different areas. But like I said, it's a process, and healing, you cannot rush. Healing, you have to basically find the root. Okay, why do I continue doing this? Why do I continue repeating this pattern? And I was such a people pleaser. I didn't know how to say no. I was afraid to say no, but now I don't have an issue with saying no. I have
Yes.
no, even with my children, it was one of the hardest things to enforce my boundaries and say no. But now, I'm very, you know, very blunt with them, and I say, no, this is not happening, or, I let them know. But I also teach them, like, with their own friends. Like, one of my daughters, like, I would tell her, one of her friends, I would tell her from the beginning, like, I didn't like her vibe. There was something about her energy that I didn't like. And I would tell her, you're giving more in this friendship than this person is giving you. She finally realized, that, her friend was being her friend for her benefit. She learned. She now sees, Ma, oh yeah, Ma, and now I know why you said I didn't, like her. You didn't like her energy. I'm like, yeah, I didn't like her energy because I felt like she wasn't being a true friend to you. You were being more of a friend than she was to you. But certain things you still have to let them go through those experiences so they can grow and learn. And she learned. I mean, now she sees. She's like, yeah, it's true what you're saying, and I have learned. I'm no longer friends with that person, even though that person wants to come back into their life. I'm like, no, they can try to come back into your life, but if they're saying they changed and they haven't, that's called manipulation. That some people want to use emotional manipulation to try to convince you. But she's very, she's enforces her boundaries. I mean, she's learning.
That's amazing. And what a beautiful thing, right? Like now that you have all of these tools and, throughout your healing journey that, your kids get to benefit also because as you're healing, you're shifting as a person and your energy changes and that gets to impact, your kids. And I think that's so amazing and so beautiful. And they get to watch you in action, right? So they get to see how you are and they get to kind of firsthand be like, oh, wow, look at this role model in terms of what you show to them and how you operate and what you do. I think it's so powerful. So I absolutely love that. And it's so true what you were saying before about, just people pleasing. Again, I think as empaths, that's just kind of like a badge that comes with that. And that's the whole process of learning that boundary and saying no, because saying no is such a hard thing, but it's really not a hard thing once you get to a place where you're like, nope, that's pretty clear to me. That's a no. And it's also wonderful to know that no is a complete sentence. That's it. You don't have to explain anything. You don't have to do anything extra. Just be like, no, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Even with my mom, like, I had to put boundaries on my mother, which is, very hard because my mom, she likes to be very controlling. She kind of thinks, how as parents, they still want to try to tell you what to do. You're already an adult, what I do is, my mom gives me certain advice. Yes, I embrace it. I'm like, okay, I mean, I don't really agree with it, but I understand your perspective. I try to, respect her point of view. But, sometimes, my mom, if she wants certain things done, like today, and it's like, no, I can't do it today. I have things that I need to do. Before I used to be like, drop everything and just do it. But now it's like, no, I'm busy. There's certain things I need to do. So, you know, I would negotiate. Can we just do this tomorrow? Tomorrow looks much better. So, I mean, it's a working process.
100%, 100%. But I think that's the beauty of it, right? That as we keep standing in our own power and knowing who we are and kind of, just building all those muscles, it becomes easier to sort of deal and integrate with things around us that in the past could have like taken us in a whole other direction. And now we're like, you get to be more steady, right? I think that's the word that I would use is that there are less things that you just spin off about because your understanding is different, right? And you're like, okay, that's mom. Yes, she wants that, but now I can negotiate with her. It doesn't have to be like she said something and I have to drop everything, right? That was the old me. That was the old way of doing things. And this is the new way. And guess what? It's almost kind of in some sense, I don't like to use the word, but it's like retraining your relationship of people around you, because you get to set that boundary and it's up to them. Either they're going to be like, yeah, I respect it, or they don't. And if they keep disrespecting the boundary, then we know our choice, right? The choice is, well, I choose not to be connected with you at the moment because it's just not a match between the two of us. You know, it doesn't have to be ugly. It doesn't have to be any yelling. It doesn't have to be any screaming. It can still be respectful and in a place where you're like, that's my boundary. And, you know, I'm going to honor my boundary. So if you can't honor the boundary, then I guess we can't continue on the path that we're on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that you said that, because I just recently had to kind of disassociate myself with, you know, with a friendship, because I mean, let's all be real. I mean, we do have friendships, but sometimes everyone grows apart, everyone goes in their own journey. And, you know, when you're telling a certain individual, you know what, we're not really in alignment right now, you know, you're in a different frequency than I am, so I'm gonna have to like just keep my distance, not really, you know, deal with your energy, you know. And I understand, you know, I told that person, I'm like, I understand that you don't have to understand me, and I know there's certain people that are not going to understand me, and that's fine. I don't expect everyone to understand where I'm coming from, what is it that I'm you know, trying to let you know. But yeah, sometimes you have to let certain, you know, friendships, you know, go your separate way, because it's not in alignment, especially if you're elevating higher. You know, like you said, when you're in a journey, there's certain people you're going to have to leave behind, and this is one of those scenarios, you know.
100%. 100%. And thank you for saying that, because I think that's so true. And I experienced that because, you know, I'm going to assume for you too, like when you go through a healing journey, it's incredibly lonely because for me, it was during the pandemic. Like I had like almost nobody that I could like relate to or have anyone understand what I was going through. And even though now when I look back, I know that that's the purpose of the journey, you do have to have a lot of alone time so you can really look inwards and reflect and spend that time before you've healed enough where you can now sort of start to like find other people and connect with them. And in the process, there's so many people that I'm no longer connected with. And I had to be okay with that. And some of that was also family, but also knowing that if the relationship is meant to come back, it will, but I need to release it for now. So I always say for now, because I don't feel that anything needs to be permanent, because everyone's changing and evolving. And I
Exactly.
always want to give people an opportunity, because who knows what they're going through, right? And maybe they're going through a dark night of the soul and they come out 6 months later to be like, oh my God, I totally get where you were coming from. And I'm, you know, whatever that is, it's like, sorry, I wasn't supportive or I didn't understand, but I feel like I understand more now. So I stay open to that. But it took me a while to get here, right? To be like, okay, I could stay open versus like, okay, that's done. Like, I got to just move on from that. So, but like you said, there's sometimes it's really hard because we all have relationships that we've had for a really long time, but it's just not a match right now. And so, you just have
Yeah,
to
the
release.
same way, like you said, it's not permanent, you know. For now, like I said, our energy is not in alignment, so you know, the best thing is just to keep my distance. And like you said, if it's meant to be, we'll align again. If it's not, then maybe in a different lifetime, you know. That's the way I say it. That's my perspective, you
Yes,
know.
I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to come back. I know we're just flowing with all this conversation, but I wanted to make sure because there was something in your bio that I wanted to talk about because I feel like people wouldn't know what that is. So you said integrated energy therapy. Could you share with us a little bit what that is, please?
So with integrated energy therapy, I was really um intrigued by it. I was like, oh, you know, where I do my other modalities, this is basically like connecting with the nine archangels, like Archangel Ariel. She's the angel of healing. So it's basically similar to Reiki, but Reiki is mostly like with the chakras, right? With, you know, with clearing your chakras if you have any blockages or any energy that's basically, you know, blocked or needs to be moved. Usually that's what, you know, Reiki does. But with integrated energy therapy, it focuses more on body points, you know. So depending on what type of session you want, usually the session could take like 45 minutes to an hour. And it basically um goes from like even activating like cellular like trauma, DNA activation. It kind of like pushes out all the trauma that you have on a cellular level, and it's totally different because, like I said, you have to go on certain, body points, like usually we start like up here and then you go with the third eye. Then there's with the integrated energy therapy, it's mostly you connect with the angels and then they guide you from there. And it's a wonderful like energy. The energy is like so warm, it's so powerful. Obviously, I work with Archangel Michael, when I'm doing my Reiki. So, and then Archangel Raphael, he's the angel of healing, as well, with the heart chakra. So, with that it's more. I feel like it's more detailed when it's integrated energy therapy. It's more, and you can also do it distant as well, just like Reiki. You can do it in person or distant, because you could said energy is energy. It doesn't matter. Like you could be on the other side of the world, but you can definitely feel like um it's kind of like the tingling, the vibration, like it kind of guides you. It's like you're being guided to where exactly. If let's say I'm working more on your crown chakra or right here in your third eye, that means obviously you have a little bit of blockages, you have headaches going on. But it's really, I really enjoy it. It's really more like detailed, more profound. And you can incorporate both. You can do maybe like do Reiki first and then do the integrated energy therapy. It's mostly like it can clear like traumas, and but obviously it's not going to just do in one session. You have to definitely just keep going at it, and then you can also guide the client things that they can do as well.
I love that. Wow. I've never heard of it before, Crissabelle. That's why I wanted to ask you, because in all the exposure and the things that I've listened to or I've, seen on YouTube or lives or whatever, I've never had anyone mention this particular modality. So I was like, oh my God, we've got to like share what this is. And what I love is I was going to ask you, and I think you're kind of alluding to this, is because you have, let's just call it, all these tools and gifts in your box, your kit of Empathic Healer 369. When you're working with a client, even though they might say, hey, I'm coming in because I want to get like an Akashic records reading, because of all the different tools and modalities that are part of who you are, do you find yourself like, if you're in a session, you're like, you know what, I feel like I need to do some Reiki on you, or I feel like I might need to tap into this to kind of heal or whatever. Do you kind of integrate everything, or do you tend to keep them kind of separate depending on what the client's asking for?
No, I usually do integrated. If I'm guided to be integrated, because I usually go by my intuition. So whatever I'm being guided at that time. I mean, there's times when I do an energy session and I'll get messages from a loved one, that also happens. And I let them know in the event, I do get certain messages. Would you like to hear them? Or, if I have to, let them know, I'll let them know before I say it. Because that has happened to me when I've done a session and I had like their grandmother, show up and show me things, and it's like, oh my God, that's crazy you said that. Like they showed me like their necklace. And I'm like, well, I don't know. She's upset about this necklace. Like, is it lost or, and she was like, oh my God, yes, it is. Like they're trying to find it. So they were trying to put it together with the grandfather, like whatever. So I was like, well, and then she showed me like a box where it was, and then I told her, and they actually found it like a month later. So it's strange. It's weird. Like sometimes when I first started, I'm like, I would doubt myself because I'm like, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. Like, when you're starting your journey, you don't know, like you kind of doubt your intuition. It's like, this doesn't even make sense, but sometimes it doesn't need to make sense. You know what I mean? So now I just go by what I see, what I feel, you know.
I love that so much. Yeah. And I think just because, how I was saying before, you have all these different gifts and tools. It's almost like when you start your work, it's all these like, I'm just going to say portals are open because you have all these different gifts. And it's like whatever's meant to come in, you're ready to receive them, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, I've got this Holy Fire Reiki, I've got the integrated energy therapy. I got the Akashic record. So it's sort of like this whole package deal that just kind of swings in with like each client, which I think is so, so amazing. So fun. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, now that I know this, maybe I'll have to be scheduling something with you in the not so distant future to experience some of this beautiful magic.
Yeah, I know sometimes it gets overwhelming because, certain energies, like you don't know what you're gonna, come across. But I mean, I like any challenge. I mean, it happens.
Yes, absolutely. So we've had so much fun chatting about so many beautiful, amazing things. And just so everyone knows, all of Crissabelle's information will be in the bio, so you can get in touch with her and, maybe set up some time with her to like check out some of these amazing modalities and gifts that she is here to offer. And I wanted to kind of bring us back to a place of my kind of closing segment, which is about being able to see some of people's gifts live. So I was going to invite Crissabelle if she would like to maybe do some collective card pull or something to share with the audience. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll pull some cards just to see. They want me to use a psychic tarot, so I'm gonna see what I'm gonna pull for my collective, because there's been a lot of energies going on, especially with that lunar eclipse that we just had with the full moon. It was in Scorpio. Scorpio is a very intense sign. So yeah, let me just do an energies check-in with the collective. Spirit, can you please show me what's the current energy for the collective? See? Yeah, woof. These two already came up. So we got right here contract. It was in reverse. So I just feel like there's a lot of some of the collective are dealing with some contracts that they're not renewing. It can also be like soul contracts. A lot of relationships have ended, not only on the romantic level, but also even on the employment level. I feel like some of the collective have started a new journey with their career or even entrepreneurship, just took the leap of faith and, like, they're like, you know what, I don't want to be in this job anymore. I'm just kind of bored. Like, I feel like some of the collective are not passionate of what they have been doing. And I feel like a lot of have been going within and just starting their own, like you said, their own network, taking a leap of faith, breaking these contracts, not renewing. Same thing with a lot of friendships, a lot of relationships have ended. And we also have here a lot of financial constraints. So like once again, a lot of collective I feel some have been like budgeting very tightly, not overspending, but Spirit is saying this is just temporary. Like 2023 is right around the corner, is the year 7, which means like you're on the right path. Just continue doing what you're doing, but just remember, do not compare yourself to someone else's progress. Just only focus on you. You can't focus and be like, well, Vanita, she got her podcast. I'm still, doing this. Like, just worry about you. Like, you don't know what Vanita went through to get to this level, So Spirit is always saying, just focus on you, focus on your self-love, focus on what exactly is that you're manifesting, and also focus on like eliminating distractions. Because I feel like there's a lot of distractions out there. And
Love that.
one more. Let's see. Yeah, see? Adjacent possibilities. So I feel like right now there's a lot of the collective that have a lot of decisions that they have to make, especially at the end of the year, especially for the new year. Like, what possibilities am I gonna, bring? Like, I feel like some that are gonna take the leap of faith are gonna be coming across a lot of opportunities that you didn't see coming. So Spirit is saying, just, go with your intuition, go with your gut, go with what you're passionate of doing. And let me go into the secretary. What else does the collective need to know? What do they need to focus on for 2023? What do they need to focus on? See? Once again, with the mental conflict, it's like some are Stop being a lot in your head, like some of the collective need to get grounded. And I feel some have a hard time doing that. A lot of overthinking. This is a lot of overthinking with which way you need to go. So Spirit is saying, just go within yourself. If you need help, ask and you shall receive. If you don't ask for help, you're not going to receive it. So there's it's a lot of mental conflict going on. See, here we go. Awareness. You got the 1 and 2, a lot of synchronicities. I feel like a lot have been seeing 111, a lot of 222, 24, 24. So this is right here. This is basically saying you are the magician. You are your own creator. What is it that you want to create? What is it? What vision do you see for 2023? You have the awareness right here. Also, I feel like a lot of collective, a lot of beginning, a lot of vivid dreams. I know I have. So make sure you write down your dreams. Write it on a journal or on your phone. I usually do it on my notes and then put it on my journal. I know I've been slacking a little bit. I haven't transferred over to my journal, but sometimes when you're writing it, is different than you're typing it. When you're typing it and then you're writing it, I feel like you get more downloads. A lot of people are getting a lot of downloads, a lot of aha moments. All right, what else? What else for 2023? Yeah, you see, like I said, wisdom, you can't make this up. A lot of downloads. There's a lot of the collective are we're in the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius is a lot of telepathic communication. A lot of people are actually waking up. They're kind of like realizing, like, wow, what I have been doing in this job for 5 years. Like, I'm not happy. I want to, do certain things that I want to do. So do not be afraid. Fear is an illusion. It's fine to be afraid for a little bit, but you have to decide, you're going to take the leap or you're going to stay in the stagnant energy and mental conflict. So, like I said, for 2023, it's going to be higher learning. We're going to go into the wisdom. This is basically the Hierophant. Like I said, a lot of people are going to either like learn new things, take classes, or like I said, a lot of downloads are going to be happening. And let's get an angel. Let's get an angel message because they want me to pull a card for the angels. All right, angels, what do we have for the collective? What is their message? You can't make this up, I'm telling you. Your intuition and downloads, once again, they're saying make sure you pay attention to your intuition. Make sure these downloads are also coming through. I feel like some do a lot of daydreaming. I know I do. Sometimes I kind of spaz out and kind of go into a meditative state. Some of you need to calm your mind and focus more on meditation. But meditation can be many forms. You can go walking to the park, driving. When I take my self baths, that's the perfect time that I use to meditate. I do my little meditation music, or even breathing. I sometimes do breathing meditation, which I actually enjoy. What else? Yes. And like I said, a lot of forgiveness and understanding. Remember not to continue holding any resentment or any grudges, because that's putting a lot of heaviness in your energy. Once you learn how to forgive yourself and forgive others and understand, okay, now I understand why this happened for me. Now I understand why I had to go through all these obstacles and challenges. And I feel like a lot are working with their solar plexus. I see a lot of yellow. So solar plexus is a lot of the collective is tapping into their creativity, and also, working on self-acceptance. This is who I am. I feel like some collective are just tired of like faking it. They want to be who they are. They want to show who they are. And definitely for the solar plexus energy, it's also about your self-esteem. I feel like a lot of collective are working on their self-love and their self-acceptance. One more. Yes. And like I said, Once again, earth and grounding. Once again, we just talked about that. Make sure you ground yourself. Yeah, there's going to be times that you are going to be mentally conflicted, but that doesn't mean you need to stay in that energy all the time, you know? Because I mean, we all go through this, like, oh my God, like we start overthinking, but then it's like, okay, you get those negative thoughts, and it's like, okay, acknowledge those negative thoughts, and then just say, you know what, this is what I can do. This is the solution. So make sure you go out there and ground yourself, you know, ground yourself with Mother Gaia. Just find ways to ground yourself, because like I said, being in that mental conflict, always up in your head, is like you feel lost. So I feel like a lot of the collective is working on grounding themselves and not being in that mental conflict. Because like I said, we also have to be, it's part of life. We are going to be in the dark. We have to be in the dark in order to come into the light. It's a yin and yang. You know, we need the dark in order to come to the light, and vice versa. And that's something, everything, the healing journey is not all about love and light. There are dark moments, you know, and I have been to those dark moments, you know, but I take it as it's just going to make me stronger. You know, I'm going through this situation because, you know, certain choices that I made led to this situation, led for me for this to happen. And it's all about your perspective. You have to change the way you know, you have certain perspective. I feel like a lot of collective are eliminating some programming that they have, you know, grown up to. And I know I'm definitely one of them. But like I said, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. All right. Yes. And see, the universe has a sacred plan. Just trust it. You know, just trust it.
Wow.
Very
Oh my
powerful.
goodness. Wow. Oh my goodness. Listen, guys, you just got treated to a full-blown reading with Crissabelle, because that was, I mean, so much information there and so much I mean, definitely I feel like people are going to have to like listen to this part again, because there's so many messages that you shared with all of us. And I think, like you said, they're absolutely perfect and completely like synchronistic. And I think it's going to be interesting, because when this episode airs, we're going to be in the middle of the holiday season. So this is the time when you can kind of be in a more reflective place and really integrate some of these messages. They were so powerful. And I think at the end of the day, everything that she's sharing is to know that the universe is always supporting you, and just know that you are amazing. And every day, every step that you take towards building yourself and, you know, healing yourself, I mean, none of it goes unnoticed. And the universe is always there to catch you and to say, keep going, just take one step at a time, and do all the different practices that she was sharing. You know, you do need to ground, you know, take some time to meditate, whatever that looks for you, right? Like she said, go to a park, you like to sing, you like to paint, you like to cook, like do the things that bring you joy, because all of those things also really help in the healing process. And just really powerful and beautiful messages. Thank you so much, Crissabelle. That was so amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I was getting so many messages like okay, slow down. And that's another thing. Like clients, you know, when I do their reading or when I go live and they're like, oh, you did a reading for me 2 months ago and this, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna remember, like, because you know, you're tapped in, you know, I'm channeling, there's no way. I'm like, can you kind of refresh me? Like, what was it that you said? Or, you know, but that happens all the time. Like people, you know, hit me up, oh yeah, you did my reading 3 months ago on a live, and I'm like, I don't even remember. I'm like, okay, but I get it all the time.
I love that, Crissabelle. It's just great because it's confirmation, right? That whatever you're doing is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And the messages are getting out to whether it's a person or like a collective. Like that's what I love about this, is that, you know, here you're doing a collective reading, but I mean, I got a ton of stuff out of that too. So anybody that's listening, it's sort of, to me, it's the people that are going to get drawn to this episode now, in the future, whenever these messages are going to apply. So
Yeah,
that's what I
timeless.
love.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
that's what I
totally
always
timeless.
that's what I always say. Even if I'm doing a specific sign, you know, like Sagittarius is gonna be up next, that doesn't mean it wouldn't apply to you. You don't have to be a Sagittarius. you can just go on the live and listen to, maybe you need to listen to certain things that you don't want to hear, but the messages are there. You know, let's be real. There's certain messages we're like, oh my God, yes, it's so true. I
Yeah,
didn't want to hear it, but within ourselves, we know it's true. It's confirmation. You know, how many times,
100%.
oh my God, I needed to hear this. This is confirmation. I'm like, yeah, it's confirmation. So you know what you need to do.
And, just one thing I wanted to add to this, and, Crissabelle has talked about it a few times. I've talked about this, and, I kind of mentioned is like trusting the universe because, every step that you take, the universe will bring like the next step to you, but you have to trust, everything is divinely guided, and just keep trusting in the process and start building the trust with yourself, because I think that's the most important component of this whole conversation to me, is like you just always have to come back to self and trusting your own guidance, and then knowing that everything is always happening for you. Just coming into that mindset that it's always happening for you, no matter what it is. And I know we're all going through many, many challenging times. And I know the holidays especially can be
Oh
very
yeah,
triggering, very
yeah.
challenging for people. But I promise you, if you are listening to this, these messages are really going to support you. So please definitely take a listen to them, listen to it more than once. And of course, Crissabelle is also a resource. All her information will be in the bio. And hopefully you can connect with her as well to connect and receive beautiful healing messages for yourself. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Crissabelle. It's been just so amazing to have this conversation with you today. We talked about so many things and we've shared so
I
many different
know.
things. And I'm just so grateful to be connected to you and for you to saying yes to join me today.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's so exciting that, you know, I'm able to connect, and I love the energy. You know, I love your energy always, and, you know, keep doing amazing work, and we just got to keep moving, keep elevating, like we
We
say.
keep elevating. That's right, baby. I love it. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in today to this episode. I'm so grateful that you take the time to listen, and I can't wait to catch you on the next episode.
That's right. Take care, everyone.